Good morning, everybody. Welcome. All the very, very best to you for 2025. Looking forward to an amazing year. And I just wanted to just kick off the year with a couple of thoughts around plans for 2025. Particularly if you are in public procurement, these are some dates you might want to jot down, get in your diary, schedule. If you think there might be of interest to you, there might be some interest to you in that respect, then find out about the budget, start budgeting for these things. Some of the PFMA entities, their new year starts in April, and local government is mid-year. But and I think most of the budgets are actually done already. But anyway, let's see. This could be an important year. It really will be. Let's just quickly kick off with my view on the Public Procurement Act. Now, I'm very open to anybody suggesting any different dates to what I have suggested here. Of course, the Public Procurement Act was approved last year. Everybody is, busy with putting the draft regulations together, providing input to those draft regulations. I suspect that the formal publishing of the draft regulations for public comment will happen around mid-March. So the reference groups are busy. There's some target deadlines this Friday, in the next couple of days, weeks. A lot of the reference group content needs to be wrapped up and submitted through to Treasury, and they will start to then put those into regulations, which they can print, they can publish in draft. Now, I suspect they probably have a February deadline to get that done. It might be earlier, it might be later, but I think that it's reasonable, although aggressive, that the draft regulations could be published in draft 14th of March. That does depend on a couple of things. It does depend on the extent to which Treasury have already engaged and consulted with the relevant ministers. It also does depend on whether they are going to engage with NEDLAC and other stakeholders before the draft regulations are published. A couple of questions on that, but let's just say that happens then in March. Now, once those draft regulations are published, everybody will then have a formal opportunity to comment on those regulations. And I think it's legally, there's only 21 days or something that they need to have them out. But let's say it's April sometime, any time from the 4th to the 18th of April, we'll have that deadline where comments on those draft regulations have to be submitted. Treasury have then got quite a bit of work to do to take all those comments and respond to each comment. They have to actually put a consultation document together when they submit this to Parliament. There's quite a bit that they're going to have to do. Now let's say they get all of this done mid-April. They've got April to May to June, 2.5 months to the 4th of July. That's quite aggressive. But let's just put a pin in the board and say, let's assume they get that done on the 4th of July. Those regulations then have to be submitted to Parliament formally, and they have to go to National Assembly and then the National Council of Provinces. So as with the Act, it goes through the National Assembly. They assign it to the relevant committee. The committee reviews that. They might bring in different opportunities for comments on those, and they will then make and draft any update to that. That updated document then goes to the National Council of Provinces, NCOP, who go through the same process, a little bit longer because they have to consult and get the input of all the different provinces in that process as well. So let's assume then that gets done during July and August. And Parliament is in a position in 2 months, which is very aggressive. Again, in my view, they get that done in 2 months. That brings us to the point where Parliament can possibly approve the regulations on the 5th of September. It will not be, I believe, an easy decision at that point to say, right, this therefore will be the implementation date. And I think there will be some consultation that will happen between the presidency and National Treasury on what that implementation date will be, because I think there may be different dates for different categories of procuring institutions. There might also be different dates for different parts and sections of the act. So that will not be an easy task. But let's assume in September the implementation date is gazetted. Now, when it's gazetted, all they're doing is saying they're publishing the date on which the regulations are effective, the date that the regulations have to be implemented. Now, this is significant. This is a significant new act. It has massive implications for local government, provinces, the provincial treasuries, national departments, and all of the public entities, PFMA schedules 1, 2, 3, A, B, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, all of them are impacted by this, as well as Parliament, by the way. Parliament have to, and the provincial legislatures will have to implement and get ready for chapter 4. So I'm suggesting that it will probably be about 6 months that the institutions will be given to get ready for the start date. And in that time, they're going to need to update their policies, update their SOPs, likely update their systems as well. There will be work that Treasury has to do on the systems. I'm assuming in this process that there won't be significant systems changes as a result of the regulations at this point. That will still take place at some stage in the future, I'm assuming. So, for PFMA, for example, that's the start of the new year. It could be an opportune time for national departments and provincial departments to start with that. I suspect that municipalities and local government might be given a little bit longer. It might make sense that they start in the start of their financial year. Unsure, but it's probably going to be around March, April that the effective date might be. Now, these are my dates. I've not had discussion with Treasury. These are the processes and the steps that Treasury have to go through for the regulations, just reflecting on how long it took to get the act from the draft through to the point that it was approved by Parliament. That took a long time. The draft act was submitted in February 2020. So I'm saying, that's the equivalent of this March 2025. The draft act, the 80-something pages, was published in February 2020. Now, granted, we had COVID and we had a number of different issues and things to deal with in that period, but it basically took from February 2020 with the draft act through to, when was it? Last year, I forget now the actual date. I think it was November. I forget now when the act was approved by Parliament. And yes, so that was years. Here I'm suggesting, and I know there's lots of pressure on National Treasury to get this done. We note also that there are the local government elections that are going to be coming up in the next 2 years. It's going to be an interesting time. So any comments on those dates? Any thoughts that you have? If there's anybody from Treasury who's keen to comment, you're welcome to. Any comments on those dates? I just wanted to at least get some dates down that we could at least put into some of our diaries and have we can at least monitor this. If we know that, for example, the draft regulations gets published sooner than March, then maybe we might get to the point that Parliament approves the regulations earlier. Could be. Not too sure yet where it stands. Any thoughts? Any thoughts? I see Martin has joined us. Welcome, Martin. We're going to talk about the UK shortly. Hi, Nicole. All right. Any thoughts, any comments? I think the comments are active. Yes, they are. All right. There we are. There's some thoughts. You're welcome to take a screenshot of that. Please just, again, this is not from Treasury. This is just my perspective and thinking through this on what the dates might be. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, Sean, I just have one concern. You know, the government hasn't decided yet what they're going to do with state-owned enterprises, where they're going to reside. There's a lot of toing and froing. There's a lot of power mongering between a variety of different ministers. And with that is the independence of the boards of those SOEs, because the boards at the end of the day set the procurement environments. Yeah. So there's still a great big gap there. And to the extent that
a couple, though, it's not all 300 public entities. It's a handful of some of the big ones, which are still, but they are big ones. You're right. It is going to be one of those things in this process. Yeah.
Well, the big ones destroy our economy, or they certainly have in the past.
Well, they make it.
So, you know, what is the independence of the boards? To what extent does the Constitution guarantee the independence of those boards?
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah. So I think there are quite a few gaps.
So that certainly is one of the unknowns, Mike. And one of the things that we're going to have to deal with. There are others. Let me share with you one. And that's the legal challenges on the Act. There is one challenge already that's been lodged. I'm aware of another one that is underway. If the Act is challenged and there are some decisions that are made by the court on the Act, that could also push this out again. Don't know. We're also aware that there are some challenges that are taking place on the Preferential Procurement Regulations 2023. And the first court case we're aware of that we got the news on for City of Cape Town last year was a comforting one, I think, to public entities. But we don't know. There may be some adverse court decisions that might come through. There's still one in the Eastern Cape. There's another one in KZN, and I think there's another one in Gauteng that is pending. So a couple of court cases on that, and that might also either expedite or force Treasury to expedite Chapter 4 even more, or it might, where we are at the moment, be quite comfortable. Any other uncertainties, Mike, that you can think of? The public entities one is right. That's a very important one. All right, let's see. There's this is my kind of starting point for the year on, and this is the mindset that I take into the entities and the companies that we're dealing with on planning. Some are saying, gee whiz, we've got to start changing up our policies now. I'm saying, hang on a sec, wait. We don't even know yet what the regulations look like. It's still some way to go before we get there. So This is just some dates that I'm going to be using for the next while. All right, let's go through a couple of the other dates that I just suggest that you also pencil in. Thank you, Mike, for raising this one. This is the Consulting Engineer South Africa Infrastructure in Indaba, which is scheduled for 18-19 March here in Johannesburg at the Indaba Hotel 4 West Johannesburg. You can see the prices are there. That looks like it's a two-day conference, which is a reasonable price for a two-day conference. So all those in the construction sector certainly would want to be involved in that. I know there is also some infrastructure conferences that are coming up during the year as well in Cape Town and elsewhere. Some of them are international ones taking place locally. We'll certainly keep you in the loop on these as they are announced. Just you might also want to pencil this one in. This is SAPEX, the supply chain. Gee whiz, society, and they've got their conference in Cape Town, 8th to the 11th of June. This is probably one of the oldest conferences in the supply chain space that we have in South Africa. Certainly, I've not been to 47 of them, but have been to many of them, and it is one of the biggest that we do have in the country, and certainly is one to look at. And I really like the theme Innovation in Motion. So that's coming up 8th to 11 June in Cape Town. Then the African Procurement Law Unit has got their 5th International Conference that is happening 12 and 13 September. And if I'm not mistaken, 12 and 13 September is a weekend. So it's a good time to be down in Stellenbosch. This will be in Stellenbosch. There's a call for papers that is out, and the deadline for the submission on the call for papers is the 28th of February this year. So a month and a half to go before the papers need to be in. But this is certainly one to pencil into your diaries. It really, really is. Public procurement regulation and policy in Africa. The APLU team are very good at bringing some of the best in the world down for this conference, and it's one certainly to do all you can to attend. So that'll be 12, 13 September. Actually, May, my sequence is a little bit out here, but May, if you're down in the Western Cape, the Smart Procurement team have got a conference that's happening 28 to 30 May 2025, and this is one that you need to book early and be sure to get there, because it's a very, very well attended conference, and yeah, always put together very well and supported very well by the Western Cape procurement team there at Western Cape Provincial Treasury, and also the different departments in the Western Cape. So that's certainly one to also diarize, 28 to 30 May. 15 to 18 September, that's just after the Stellenbosch conference, is the Smart Procurement World in Indaba, 15 to 18 September. And certainly one to also pencil in together with Indaba always is the Enterprise and Supply Development Expo, which is one of the biggest that we've got in the country, and it costs you nothing to attend the expo. But it is a great opportunity to network with suppliers, with the major players in the industry. And this is also just to confirm, this is also the public procurement conference that takes place as well. This is not just private sector. In fact, the public procurement stream of this conference is bigger than the private sector one. So very, very interesting there, and you want to certainly do that. There is also from the Smart Procurement team. The 16th of September is a sustainability summit, which will happen in parallel at the Indaba. And this is all, of course, at here in Midrand at gee whiz, somebody help me with the venue. It escapes me right now, but it's the big Midrand Conference Center venue that we've got there. A couple of things to also bear in mind. Yes, there is a Africa Supply Chain in Action online conference that Smart Procurement also holding 13th of March. There's no cost to attend that. But they do have speakers and people coming in from all over the place online for that particular one. And there are a couple of streams that they have there also worthwhile diarising that as well, 13th of March. Just a couple of global events, and the one that I'm certainly going to be watching is the UK and their effective date, if you like, is the 24th of February, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me, Martin. I believe it's 24th of February, and that's when the UK's Public Procurement Act is going to be effective. Now, they did have a date last year and decided that there's a need for some changes to a couple of things to take place, and they made those changes. And as far as I'm aware, the 24th of February is still the date that we're going to be watching in the UK for that. Now, the UK's Act was approved in the prior year, so it's taken them at least a year and a half to get to this point. And if we look at my dates that I had earlier, we're basically going to be doing this within a year. So let's see how it goes. But we're certainly going to be watching how the UK goes. There are a couple of other changes that are taking place in the world in the public procurement space. Interested to see last night that President Trump has stopped all changes to regulations. So any regulations which are being changed or are underway, he has put a stop to all of those regulations, federal regulations. So the Federal Acquisition Regulations, FAR, those changes will not be happening until his team is in place. And yes, so thank you, Martin. 24th is still the date, so we'll certainly be watching that closely. And then I thought just to take note, the World Sustainable Procurement Day 2025 is happening on March 20, and that's a 24-hour day, and that's probably one to also diarize. Remember, we've got to start to take the sustainability procurement seriously, because it is in our act, and we know that there's a certain focus on that in the regulations as well. So certainly something to look at. Any other events or any other milestones that people would like to raise and make people aware of at this point? Anything else? Anything else to add? All right. Hello, Mike.
Sorry, I just would like to make a comment on the CISO infrastructure in Indaba. It's not always easy for the public sector to justify those costs. So my suggestion would be, if you are from the public sector and you would like to attend, contact Bonolo at CISA and just see what she can arrange for you.
Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you very much. Yes. Much appreciated. All right, folk, if there's nothing else, next week and the week after, we're going to focus on professionalization. And you may have seen in In LinkedIn, there's some comments there. There's some work that was done last year and a report submitted to the National Treasury. There certainly is a focus on that in the regulation work streams. We've got to be sure that that does carry through. And so we're going to have a focus on the next 2 weeks on professionalization with a particular focus on public procurement. So be sure to join us next week and the week after. I have not got confirmation yet. I can quickly check to see if I have anything yet from the guys for next week. And no, nothing yet. And yeah, it's going to be important. It's going to be hot. I've got a couple of thoughts on themes and focuses that we're going to have this year. Yes, absolutely. The focus is going to be around the regulations and getting ready for the new act. But I think that alongside that, we're probably going to continue to have a fairly serious theme around professionalization. There is another theme I'm busy toying with. We might have a bit of a survey on that next week, but yeah, that's the focus for next week. If there's no other comments or questions or ideas or contributions, then I'm going to wish you all a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Good one.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers, Mike. Thanks, Martin. Julia, we must talk.
Yes, we must talk, Sean.